I still remember that day. The sun was hiding behind thick gray clouds and a cold wind blew across the small town. I was sitting in my old armchair, the one that creaked every time I shifted, staring at the wall that had held so many memories. My son Michael had been visiting me more often these days. He had been worried, saying I needed more care than he could give at home. I wanted to protest, to stay in my home where every corner knew me. But his insistence had a strange urgency I couldn't ignore. "I think you'll love it there." "Mom," he said, his voice bright, almost too bright. "The nursing home is amazing. You'll make friends. They have activities, gardens, and doctors on call. It's perfect." I looked at him, seeing his hope, his eagerness, but also something else I couldn't name. There was a tension behind his smile. Something quick, almost like a flicker of fear that disappeared as fast as it came. I shrugged. Maybe it's time. The drive there felt longer than I expected. Michael kept talking about the place, describing every detail, every cheerful nurse, every sunny corner of the garden. Yet, as we approached, a strange feeling settled in my chest. The building was larger than I imagined. Pale gray bricks covered in creeping ivy. The windows reflected the clouds like dark mirrors. I couldn't explain it, but a shiver ran down my spine. Even Michael's voice sounded different, almost hollow, as if the wind carried it away before it reached me. The receptionist was polite, smiling too much. Her hands moved nervously over the papers, as if she had done this 100 times before. Michael introduced me, and I followed her down a long hallway lined with pictures of happy residents. The hall smelled faintly of disinfectant and flowers, an odd combination that made my head spin. Every step echoed in my ears. There was a whisper of sound I couldn't identify, maybe the wind outside, maybe something inside the walls, but it made me stop for a moment. They showed me my room. It was tidy, with sunlight streaming through the window, casting patterns on the wooden floor. I noticed a small clock ticking slowly, the only sound that felt normal in this strange place. Michael smiled and said, "See, it's perfect." But I couldn't shake the feeling that the room, the walls, even the air, was holding a secret, a quiet warning. After settling in, Michael gave me a quick hug. "I'll be back tomorrow morning, Mom. You'll be fine, I promise." And with that, he left. The door clicked behind him, and I was alone for the first time since I arrived. I sat on the edge of the bed, listening. The wind outside rattled the window. Somewhere in the distance, a clock struck an hour I wasn't sure of. The shadows of the trees outside stretched across the floor, moving as if alive. I still remember that night. The night felt heavier than any night I had ever known. I heard a soft knock on my door. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling slightly. No one answered, but the knock came again, faint, hesitant, almost like a whisper. I walked slowly to the door, my heart pounding. No one was there. The room seemed to close in on me. The air was thick, almost warm, yet my skin crawled as if the room itself was watching. I tried to shake off the feeling, telling myself it was just my imagination. The loneliness, or maybe the old house of my mind? I lay down on the bed, pulling the covers close. The shadows shifted strangely, and I could swear I saw a figure at the window standing still watching. But when I blinked, nothing was there. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt wrong. I tried to sleep, but every sound made me jump. The creak of the bed, the distant hum of an air conditioner, the soft murmur of voices from somewhere deep in the building. I wanted to call out, but my throat felt dry, frozen. I could feel my heart beating in my chest, loud enough to drown out the world. Then a whisper. So soft I almost didn't hear it. "Mom." I froze. My breath caught in my throat. It wasn't Michael. It wasn't any voice I knew. It sounded close, almost right behind me, yet I dared not turn around. My body shook as the whisper repeated, "Mom, come with us." I wanted to run, to hide, to scream, but I couldn't. Something in the room held me in place, something unseen. The shadows on the walls seemed to twist, to bend, to stretch toward me. I reached for my phone on the bedside table. It wasn't there. My heart sank. I remembered Michael's smile when he left, too bright, too eager. Something was wrong, but I didn't know what. And then a soft, chilling laughter. It was faint, almost melodic, but it pierced through the quiet. I still remember that sound. I couldn't see anyone, but the feeling of being watched, of being trapped, was overwhelming. My hands trembled. I wanted to believe it was a dream, but it felt real. Too real, taut suddenly. The door clicked, slowly, deliberately. I sat up frozen, my eyes fixed on the doorknob. The shadows in the hallway seemed to lean closer. And then, silence. I didn't know what would happen next. I didn't know if I should stay in the bed or move toward the door. The wind rattled the window, the shadows shifted. And I felt the weight of something watching me, waiting. And in that moment, I knew. I wasn't alone in that nursing home. I still remember that night. The one after the first whispers. I couldn't sleep. The shadows in the room seemed alive, moving in ways that made no sense. Every creak of the floor, every rustle of the curtains felt like a warning. My heart thumped in my chest so loudly I feared it might wake the entire building or worse. Something unseen. I didn't know what was real anymore. The whispers returned, soft and insistent. "Mom, come with us." The voice seemed closer this time, almost breathing against my ear, though no one was there. I pulled the covers tighter, shaking, trying to convince myself I was imagining it. Maybe it was the wind, or maybe the loneliness of being somewhere unfamiliar. But something deep inside told me it was more than that. Something was wrong. I remembered Michael's bright smile when he left me. The way he had said, "You'll love it here," almost too eagerly. I had trusted him, always trusted him. But now I wasn't so sure. I sat on the edge of the bed, listening. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant and something else, something metallic and cold that made my stomach turn. Suddenly, I heard a sound I would never forget. Soft footsteps. Outside my door. Slow, careful, deliberate. My breath caught in my throat. The doorknob rattled slightly. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. My hands were trembling so badly I couldn't reach for anything. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then, a soft tap, like someone was knocking very lightly. I whispered, "Who's there?" No answer. I forced myself to get up, my legs weak and shaky. I crept to the door and pressed my ear against it. I could hear faint breathing on the other side. Then a voice, low and gentle, said, "It's okay. Don't be afraid." But it wasn't Michael. I didn't recognize it. And it made me feel colder than anything I had ever felt. The hallway outside was empty, or so it seemed. The lights flickered as I stepped out, my slippers barely making a sound on the polished floor. The air smelled like antiseptic and old wood. I could hear distant voices laughing somewhere far down the hall, though they were muffled, almost ghostly. Something in me told me to turn back, but curiosity or fear kept me moving forward. As I walked, I noticed the other rooms. Most were dark, but some had soft glows coming from inside. Shadows moved behind the curtains. Sometimes it looked like figures, sitting, waiting. I tried to remind myself these were just people, maybe watching TV, maybe asleep. But something about the way they moved, the way the light flickered on the walls, didn't feel human. I turned a corner and my heart skipped a beat. At the end of the hallway, there was a door slightly ajar. A warm light spilled from it. I couldn't see who or what was inside. I hesitated. The whispers returned, soft, almost pleading. "Come, come." My legs moved before I could think, drawn toward the light. Toward the mystery that seemed to call my name. Inside, the room was empty. But the air was thick, heavy, almost suffocating. The furniture was neatly arranged, the bed made perfectly. But something felt wrong. On the desk, I saw a small photograph. It was of me older, sitting in this very room, smiling, but my eyes looked terrified. I dropped it instantly, my hands shaking. I didn't remember ever taking such a picture. I didn't even know how it existed then. From behind me, a soft click. The door closed, slowly, and I felt its presence of someone or something just behind me. My breath caught. I wanted to turn around, but my feet felt glued to the floor. A hand brushed against my shoulder, light, almost teasing. I screamed, but no sound came out. The shadows in the corners of the room twisted and stretched toward me, growing darker, thicker, more real. I stumbled backward and fell onto the bed, my heart racing uncontrollably. The photograph slid across the floor toward the door, stopping as if it had a life of its own. And then I heard it, unmistakable. A soft, low laugh echoing in the empty room. I froze. I wanted to run, but the door wouldn't budge. I was trapped. My mind raced. Michael had left me here. He had promised me safety. But now? I didn't know what to believe. Was this some game? Some cruel trick? Or had I walked into something far worse than I could imagine? The whispers returned, closer this time, almost inside my head. Mom, we've been waiting for you. I still remember that night. The cold air on my skin, the shadows that seemed to breathe, the feeling of being watched by something that had no eyes. And then the lights went out, complete darkness, silence, and a whisper. Right next to my ear, "You can't leave now." I still remember that night. The one when the darkness swallowed the room and the whisper seemed to crawl into my mind. I pressed my hands against my ears, trying to block it out, but it was impossible. The air was cold, almost icy, and it smelled faintly of rust and old paper. My heart was pounding like a drum in a silent hall, and I couldn't breathe properly. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I stayed huddled on the bed, waiting for anything to happen. Time had no meaning. Minutes felt like hours, and the shadows in the corners of the room grew longer, twisting in ways that didn't make sense. I could feel them moving closer, leaning in, watching. And then, a soft, deliberate knock at the door. I froze. My mind screamed at me not to open it, but my body moved before I could stop it. Slowly, I approached, each step making the floorboards groan under my weight. The knock came again, louder this time. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "Who is it?" I called, my voice shaking. Silence, then a whisper. "It's time." The doorknob turned slowly. My heart stopped. I backed away, pressing myself against the wall. The door creaked open, just a crack, and a sliver of light spilled into the room. I couldn't see anyone, but I felt it, the presence of someone watching me, waiting. The shadows shifted again, and for a moment, thought I saw a figure standing there, tall and dark, its face hidden. I stumbled backward, tripping over the edge of the bed. My hands grabbed the mattress as I fell, and the figure didn't move, didn't speak. It just stood there, silent, cold, and somehow wrong. My mind raced. Was this a dream? Was I losing my mind? I had trusted Michael. I had believed him when he said this place was wonderful. But now, I didn't know what to believe. The figure moved, not toward me, but around me, slowly, silently. The shadows in the room deepened as if it were swallowing the light. I could feel a chill creeping up my spine, cold and sharp like ice sliding under my skin. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't respond. It was as if the room itself had grown roots, holding me in place. I remembered the photograph from before, the one with my terrified eyes. It had been lying on the floor. I scrambled to pick it up, my fingers shaking. And then I noticed something I hadn't seen before. Behind me, on the wall, there were more photographs. Hundreds of them. All showing people in this room, all smiling, all terrified. And at the center of each photograph, a shadow, dark, shapeless. Watching, a whisper came from behind me. Soft, close. "Join us." I spun around, but there was nothing. The photographs trembled slightly, as if alive. The shadows in the corners of the room stretched toward me, darker, thicker, closing in. My breathing was fast, shallow. I tried to shout, to run, to do anything, but my voice refused to come. Suddenly, a cold hand touched my shoulder. I screamed finally, a sound that tore through the room. But no one came. The shadows seemed to pull back slightly. Then the figure appeared again, closer this time. I could feel it staring at me, its presence heavy, suffocating. I stumbled backward and hit the bed frame. the wood splintering under the impact. The whisper returned. Urgent now, almost a scream inside my head. You cannot leave. I tried to move, to run, but my body refused. My legs felt like lead. My arms were numb. My heart pounded in my ears, and then I heard another sound. Footsteps. Michael's footsteps. Or someone pretending to be him. The sound came from the hallway, slow, deliberate. Then his voice, soft but strained. Mom, it's okay. I'm here. I froze. Relief and fear collided in my chest. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to reach for him. But something in the shadows made me pause, warning me. The figure moved closer, silent, looming, and I realized. Whoever or whatever was here didn't want me to leave. The door creaked open fully. Light spilled into the room, and there he was. Michael. His eyes were wide, his face pale. Mom, come with me, he said, stepping inside. But there was something different about him. Something cold, something not right. His smile didn't reach his eyes. The shadows recoiled slightly as he entered. The whispers stopped. Silence fell. I wanted to run into his arms to trust him again. But my instincts screamed that this was a trap. That Michael, or whatever he had become, was not the son I knew. I still remember that night. The fear, the cold, the shadows pressing in on me. And as he reached toward me, I felt a pull from the darkness, a force stronger than anything I had ever felt. And then everything went black. I still remember that night. The moment I woke up and realized I wasn't in my room anymore. The air was cold and heavy, smelling faintly of damp stone and something metallic. The darkness was thicker than anything I had ever known. I tried to move, but my body felt weak, as if I had been asleep for days, or were strapped somewhere between waking and dreaming. I looked around, trying to make out shapes in the shadows. The walls were rough, old stone, and the floor was cold under my hands. It wasn't like any part of the nursing home I had seen before. I didn't hear voices, footsteps, or the hum of air conditioning. Just silence. A silence so complete it pressed against my ears and made my head ache. I tried to call out, Michael, is that you? But my voice came out as a whisper, almost swallowed by the darkness. No answer. I stood up slowly, my legs shaking. Every step echoed softly in the room, but it wasn't a hallway or room I had ever known. The air felt alive, moving around me, brushing against my skin like tiny hands, cold and soft. Then I heard a faint sound, like someone whispering behind me. Mom, my breath caught. I spun around, but the shadows were thick, impenetrable. My heart raced. I wanted to run, but I didn't know where to go. Every direction seemed the same, dark, silent, endless. I could feel my fear growing, twisting in my stomach. Suddenly, a flicker of light appeared ahead. Small at first, like a candle glowing far away. I started moving toward it, my hands brushing against the cold walls. The light grew slightly as I approached, revealing a narrow doorway. Beyond it, I could see shapes, figures moving slowly, silently, like they were floating. I couldn't make out faces, but I could feel them watching me, waiting. I stepped closer, and one of the figures turned toward me. It was tall, thin, and shadowed. With glowing eyes I could barely see. My legs froze. A voice, low and hollow, whispered, "You shouldn't be here." Panic rose inside me. I wanted to run, but I didn't know where. The doorway behind me disappeared, just stone wall now. I was trapped, and the only way forward was toward them. My chest ached. I could feel my heart beating so fast it might burst. The figures started moving toward me, slowly, silently. My mind raced. I thought of Michael. Was he here? Had he left me? Had he brought me into this place? Or was this something else entirely? I could barely remember the photograph I had seen before, the one with the shadow in the corner. The thought made my stomach twist. Was this what had been waiting for me all along? I kept moving forward, toward the figures. The light flickered, and for a moment, I thought I saw the hallway of the nursing home, familiar but distorted, like a reflection in broken glass. The shadows whispered again, softly, Mom. Come with us. Don't fight. It's easier. I stumbled, almost falling. My hand touched something cold and hard. A door, a gate. I pulled it open and stepped through. The air changed, it was warmer, almost comforting. I saw Michael there, standing in a small room, his face pale and eyes wide. Relief washed over me, Michael. Oh, thank God. I cried, rushing toward him. But as I got closer, I saw the look on his face. Not the Michael I knew. Something else. Something. His eyes didn't shine with warmth. They were empty, hollow, and his smile was wrong, too wide, too still. "Mom," he said softly, holding out his hand. "It's time to stay with us." I froze. My instincts screamed at me, warning me not to trust him. The room shifted around me. Shadows crawled along the walls, reaching for me. The whispers returned, louder, urgent. "Mom, don't go. Don't trust." And then the door behind me slammed shut with a deafening bang. I was trapped, alone with Michael, but not the son I remembered. And the shadows were closing in. I still remember that night. The terror, the cold, the feeling that I had walked into a place I might never leave. I still remember that night. The floor beneath me twisting like it had a life of its own. I tried to take a step back, but my feet felt heavy, as if something invisible was holding me down. Shadows crawled along the walls, stretching toward me, dark and cold, whispering my name over and over. "Mom, Mom, come with us." The voices grew louder, insistent, almost desperate. Michael stood in front of me, his face pale and his eyes hollow. "Mom, it's okay. You're safe with me," he said softly. But I knew it wasn't my Michael. Something had changed him more. Maybe he had never been the son I knew. My heart raced, pounding like it wanted to escape my chest. Every instinct told me to run, to hide, to fight. But the floor continued to shift beneath me. It twisted like waves, almost alive, making it impossible to move in any direction. The shadows behind him swirled, growing thicker, darker, pressing in around me. I could hear faint whispers, voices I didn't recognize, voices that seemed to come from inside my head. "Don't trust him. Don't go. It's not safe." But the moment I tried to speak, my mouth went dry, my words trapped in my throat. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Michael reached out. I could feel the chill of his hand even before it touched me. A shiver ran down my spine, and my mind screamed to pull away. But something stronger than fear held me in place. Something like a strange curiosity, a need to understand what was happening. I looked into his hollow eyes, searching for a hint of the son I had loved. But there was nothing. Only darkness. Suddenly, the floor beneath me shuddered violently. I stumbled, trying to keep my balance, and the shadows reacted like living things, twisting and stretching, almost as if they were trying to pull me into them. The room around me began to change. The walls stretched higher, the ceiling disappeared into darkness, and the light flickering from nowhere cast long, sharp shadows that danced like flames. "Mom, you don't understand," Michael said, his voice shaking now, as if he too was struggling against something. But the words sounded wrong, hollow, not the comforting voice I remembered. The shadows moved closer to him, whispering, pressing against him as well. I realized then that he wasn't the one controlling this place. We were both trapped, caught in something far older and darker than either of us. I tried to move, to step away, but the floor shifted again, tilting dangerously. My balance gave way, and I stumbled into Michael. For a brief second, I thought we might fall together, but instead of hitting the floor, we landed on a different surface. Soft, cold, and wet. I looked down and saw that the ground was like mud or liquid darkness, clinging to my feet. The walls had vanished entirely. The shadows were everywhere, swirling around us, whispering, laughing softly. Pressing against our skin, Michael grabbed my hand. "Mom, you have to trust me," he said, pulling me forward. I wanted to resist, but the shadows were closing in behind us. The air was thick, almost suffocating, and every breath burned my lungs. I could hear faint sounds beneath the whisper screams, laughter. crying all layered together in a chaotic symphony of fear. We ran, or maybe the ground carried us forward. I couldn't tell. Time had no meaning here. The darkness pressed in from all sides, and I could feel it trying to pull me under, trying to drag me into itself. But Michael's hand was firm, grounding me, even if his eyes told a different story. Finally, we reached a narrow corridor, lit by a dim, flickering light. The shadows hesitated at the entrance, whispering in voices I couldn't understand. Michael pulled me through the corridor, and for a brief moment, I thought we had escaped. But then the walls behind us began to close in, slowly, deliberately. I could hear the shadows pressing, whispering, moving closer. I still remember that night. The fear, the cold, the feeling that we were running out of time. And then a voice, soft and terrifying, came from the darkness ahead. "Welcome home." I still remember that night. The moment we reached the massive door. Its wood was dark, cracked with age, and covered in strange symbols that pulsed faintly in the flickering light. The shadows behind us hissed and swirled, pressing against the walls, trying to reach us. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst from my chest. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but there was nowhere to go. Michael's hand held mine tightly, but his eyes were empty, as if he wasn't entirely here. He reached for the handle. The moment his fingers touched the wood, the air around us changed. It was heavier, colder, like the building itself had drawn a deep breath. The shadows pressed closer, whispering louder. Their voices layered with fear, anger, and something older, something cruel. I wanted to scream, to pull back, but Michael's grip was firm, unyielding. "Mom, we have to go in," he said softly. His voice trembled, but it was the only thing keeping me from running blind into the darkness behind us. I nodded, though my body felt paralyzed with fear. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a room bathed in pale, unnatural light. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the normal silence of a quiet room, but a heavy, suffocating silence that pressed against my ears and made my thoughts jumbled. Shadows lined the walls, stretching toward the ceiling, moving slightly as if alive. In the center of the room was a large table, covered in photographs, dozens of them, all showing people I didn't recognize. Some were smiling, some were crying, but every single one had a shadow looming in the background. Almost like it was watching them. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. The photographs were old, some yellowed with age, others fresh, as if they had been taken recently. And then I realized the shadows in the pictures moved. Just slightly, barely noticeable, but definitely moving. My stomach twisted. I wanted to look away, but my eyes were glued to them. Michael stepped forward, his hand still gripping mine. "This is why I brought you here," he said, his voice almost a whisper. I couldn't tell you everything before. They need you, need me." I echoed, my voice shaking. "Who? What are you talking about?" My mind spun. The whispers from the shadows grew louder, overlapping with each other, speaking too quickly to understand. They pressed into my ears, my chest, my skull. I felt like I was losing control of myself suddenly. One of the photographs slid off the table, flipping face down on the floor. A low guttural growl filled the room, echoing from the corners. Shadows stretched from the walls toward the table, swirling like smoke. And I could see faint shapes moving inside them, faces, hands, figures trying to escape. My heart raced. Michael pulled me closer. "Mom, they can't have you unless you stay calm. Trust me." His words sounded desperate, as if he were speaking to himself as much as to me. I wanted to trust him, but everything in the room screamed danger. The shadows pressed closer, their whispers now forming words I could barely make out. "She belongs to us. She cannot leave." The floor beneath me trembled, and I stumbled back. One of the figures in the shadow lunged forward, its form blurry but terrifying. I screamed, but Michael caught me. "Mom, look at me. Don't listen to them." His grip was strong, almost painfully firm, but his eyes, I couldn't read them. And then I saw it, a doorway at the far end of the room, glowing faintly. Light, safety, or maybe a trap. I didn't know which. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if aware of the doorway, but they didn't disappear. They shifted, twisting and crawling toward us like dark water. I still remember that night. The fear, the cold, the feeling that something was watching me from every corner of the room. And then Michael let go of my hand. He stepped forward into the light and whispered, "Go, Mom. Now." I still remember that night. The moment the floor gave way beneath me, it felt like time slowed down. My hands clawed at the air, trying to grab something, anything, to stop myself from falling. The light from the doorway grew smaller and smaller as I plunged into darkness. My scream echoed endlessly, swallowed by the void. Then, suddenly, I hit the ground. The air was thick and damp. My body ached, but I was alive. I pushed myself up slowly, my hands sinking into soft dirt. I blinked, trying to adjust my eyes to the faint light around me. It wasn't total darkness. There were small glowing specks floating in the air like dying fireflies. The space was wide and hollow, a tunnel carved into the earth. The walls pulsed faintly, almost like they were breathing. "Michael?" I shouted. My voice bounced back at me, warped and distant. "Michael, where are you?" No answer. Just the slow, rhythmic sound of dripping water somewhere nearby. My chest tightened. I could feel something moving in the shadows, something watching me. I stood up, brushing dirt from my clothes, and started walking slowly. My footsteps echoed against the walls. The tunnel stretched endlessly in both directions, but one side glowed faintly, flickering like candlelight. I followed it, each step heavy with fear. The whispers began again, faint at first, then clearer. She shouldn't be here. She broke the circle. She was chosen. The voices surrounded me, though I couldn't see anyone. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. I pressed my back against the wall and tried to calm my breathing. The air smelled like earth and something metallic blood. Maybe after what felt like forever, I reached the source of the light. A small room opened up ahead, its walls covered in carvings of strange symbols and names. In the center stood a table made of stone, and on it dozens of candles burned. Their flames flickered violently as I stepped closer. As if reacting to my presence, on the wall behind the table was a mural painted in dark red. It showed people standing in a circle around a shadowy figure. Their faces were twisted in pain, and at the center, a bright light burned from a single person's chest. My stomach turned. The figure in the painting looked disturbingly familiar. It looked like me. I stumbled back, my breath catching in my throat. No, that can't be," I whispered. My knees trembled. "What is this place?" Then a low hum filled the air, soft but growing louder. The candles flickered again, and a shadow stretched across the floor, slowly forming the shape of a person. I froze. The figure solidified, a tall woman with pale, hollow eyes and long gray hair that floated like smoke. Her voice was calm, almost gentle, but it echoed everywhere. "You shouldn't have come here, Mary." My heart stopped. You know my name." She nodded slowly. "We all know your name. You were promised to us long ago. What are you talking about?" I demanded, though my voice shook. "Where's my son? Where's Michael?" The woman's expression softened for a moment, almost sad. "He brought you here because he loves you, because he couldn't bear to watch you suffer. But love has a cost, and he didn't understand the price." My body went cold. "What price?" I whispered. She pointed toward the mural. "Every generation gives one. One soul, pure and willing, must stay behind. It keeps the door closed between our world and yours. Your son offered you, thinking he could bring you peace. He didn't know that peace means silence forever." I felt the blood drain from my face. No, he wouldn't. He couldn't. I took a step back, shaking my head. "Michael loves me. He would never." The woman's eyes flickered with sorrow. "Love makes fools of us all. He thought he could save you." Suddenly the ground trembled and the candles flickered wildly. From the shadows, dozens of figures began to emerge, pale, half-transparent shapes with hollow faces. They whispered my name over and over, reaching out with trembling hands. I stumbled backward, my mind spinning. Michael. I screamed. Help me. A voice echoed faintly from above, distant but familiar. Mom, don't move. I'm coming. Tears filled my eyes. Michael. The woman's face darkened. He's too late, she whispered. The figures reached for me, their cold hands brushing against my skin. The whispers grew into screams. I closed my eyes and prayed, clutching the locket around my neck, the one Michael had given me on my birthday. Suddenly, warmth spread from the locket, burning against my skin. The shadows recoiled, hissing. The woman stepped back, eyes wide. No, it cannot be opened again. Light burst from the locket, filling the room. For a moment, everything disappeared, the voices, the cold, the pain. There was only blinding white dot, and then I heard Michael's voice again, closer this time. Mom, wake up. Please wake up. I still remember that day. Lying in the hospital bed, my body aching, my mind swirling with confusion. Michael sat beside me, holding my hand tightly, his eyes red from crying. Relief washed over me. I thought I was safe. I thought it was finally over. But when I glanced at the window behind him, I saw a Hertha woman with hollow eyes watching me. She smiled, faint but cruel, and then disappeared into the shadows. I tried to sit up, my voice trembling. Michael, she's here. I saw her. He shook his head, brushing the hair from my face. Mom, don't let it scare you. You're safe now. That's all that matters. But I wasn't convinced. The locket burned faintly around my neck, a reminder of what had happened. My heart was still pounding, and my mind couldn't stop replaying the figures, the shadows, the whispers, the memory of that room, the mural. And the hands reaching for me lingered like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. I needed answers. Michael, what's going on? Why did this happen? What did that woman mean about the price? About me being promised? My voice broke. Michael's face turned pale. He looked away for a moment, biting his lip, then back at me. Mom, I didn't want to tell you. I tried to protect you. But the nursing home? It's not just a home. It's a place between worlds. A place that keeps the balance, and they chose you. Chose me. I whispered, my mind spinning. Why me? I'm just me. You were the one they wanted, he said, his voice low. They've been taking one person from each generation. Someone pure, someone willing to keep the balance between their world and ours. I didn't know. I thought it would be safe, that you'd be happy. I was wrong. Kay, tears filled my eyes. So I'm supposed to stay there? Forever. Michael shook his head. No. I tried to bring you back. That's why I came for you, why I brought the locket. It has power. It can protect you. But you have to be strong. They'll try again. They won't give up. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my trembling hands. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I want to face them again. Michael squeezed my hand. You have to. They'll keep coming, Mom, if you don't fight. You'll be trapped, like those in the mural. You have a chance now? Don't waste it. I looked at him, my mind racing. The memories of the hospital room, the shadows, the dark tunnel, and the stone table were all still vivid. The locket felt heavy, warm against my chest. It's like a small beacon of hope. And then I heard it, a faint whisper, soft and cruel, coming from the corner of the hospital room. She cannot escape. She will belong to us. I froze. My stomach twisted with fear. I turned slowly toward the corner, and for a brief second I saw the woman again, standing silently, her hollow eyes fixed on me. Then she vanished. I still remember that day. The terror, the weight of knowing that even here, in a place of supposed safety, they could reach me, and I knew I had to face them. There was no running this time. I had to go back. I still remember that night. The moment Michael and I walked back through the familiar yet terrifying doors of the nursing home. The air was thick with an unnatural chill. The walls, once bright and clean, now seemed darker, older, as if the building itself had aged in the hours we were away. The whispers started immediately soft, hissing, urgent coming from every corner, every shadow. She's here. She belongs to us. I held Michael's hand tightly. My pulse raced. My legs shook as we walked down the long hallway. The sound of our footsteps echoed, and yet behind us there were other sounds, footsteps that didn't belong to us. The shadows shifted and moved, crawling along the walls like living things, whispering in voices that sounded like the trapped souls I had seen in the mural. "Mom." "Stay close," Michael whispered. His hand was clammy, and I could feel the tension in his body. I nodded, swallowing my fear. We had no choice but to go forward. The nurses and residents were gone. The hallways were empty, silent, except for the low hum of an unseen energy that seemed to pulse through the walls. We reached the room where it all began, the massive door, the one with the pulsing symbols. The air was heavy, almost suffocating. The shadows inside the room stirred violently as we approached. Michael turned to me. "Mom, remember the locket? It's our protection. Keep it close and don't let them touch you." I clutched it tightly, feeling warmth spread through my hand. But the shadows were already moving toward us. Dark, twisting shapes, reaching, whispering, clawing. Their voices overlapped, desperate and cruel. "She belongs to us. She cannot leave. She must stay." I swallowed hard, my stomach twisting in fear. "Michael, what do we do?" He took a deep breath, his eyes firm. "We face them. We fight, together." The shadows surged forward, and I felt their cold tendrils brush against my skin. I screamed and held the locket to my chest. Light burst from it, cutting through the darkness like a blade. The shadows hissed and recoiled, shrieking, writhing. I could see faces in the darkness pale, desperate faces of those who had been trapped before me. They reached for me, their eyes pleading. "Mom." "Now," Michael shouted. He grabbed my hand and we ran toward the stone table in the center of the room. The shadows swirled, forming shapes taller and wider, trying to block our path. The woman, the same hollow-eyed figure, stood at the far side of the room, her arms outstretched. "You cannot leave. She is ours." I pressed the locket harder to my chest, and suddenly the warmth spread through me, through Michael, through the entire room. A bright light exploded outward, blinding and pure. The shadows shrieked and twisted, retreating into themselves, trying to resist. The trapped faces in the darkness whispered thanks as they dissolved into the light. The woman's scream cut through the chaos, high and piercing. Her form began to unravel, her body dissolving into the shadows she had controlled. But even as she disappeared, I could feel her presence linger, a cold, cruel warning that this wasn't over. Michael and I collapsed onto the floor, breathing hard, our hands still clasped. The room grew still. The air was lighter, warmer. I looked around, seeing the familiar walls of the nursing home return slowly, as if nothing had happened. But I knew better. I had seen the truth. I still remember that night. The terror, the fear, the feeling of being hunted by something beyond understanding. And even though the shadows were gone, I knew the echoes of their whispers would stay with me forever. I still remember that night. The final night, or at least I thought it was the final night. The whisper lingered in my ear even after the shadows had vanished. "You can never leave." "Not completely." I shivered, hugging the locket tightly. Michael was beside me, his hand firm around mine, his face pale but determined. We had survived, but I knew deep down that nothing would ever be the same. The nursing home looked normal again, the hallways clean and quiet. I could hear distant voices, residents talking, laughter, the hum of normal life. But I knew the truth. Beneath the surface, beneath the ordinary walls, something ancient and dark still waited. It was patient. It had rules, and it had chosen me once. Maybe it would try again. Michael and I walked slowly through the hallways, our footsteps echoing softly. He kept looking at me, worried, asking silently if I was okay. I nodded, but my heart was heavy. I felt a mix of relief and fear, knowing we had escaped for now, but not forever. We reached the front doors. The sunlight poured in, warm and bright. I inhaled deeply, tasting freedom. I wanted to run to leave the past behind. But I couldn't shake the memory of the shadows, of the faces trapped in the mural, of the hollow-eyed woman who had tried to claim me. Michael squeezed my hand. "We're safe, Mom. We made it." I forced a smile, but my eyes remained distant. "We are. For now. But we'll never forget." For the first time in days, I felt a small spark of hope. The locket still rested against my chest, a symbol of protection, of survival. I knew it had saved me, and I knew it would always remind me of the night I faced the darkness and didn't give in. We left the nursing home together, stepping into the sunlight. The warmth on my face felt real, alive. I looked back one last time. The building seemed ordinary, harmless, almost welcoming. But I knew the truth. It was a place of secrets, a place where shadows waited patiently for the next soul. I still remember that night. The terror, the fear, the shadows, and the whispers. But I also remember the courage, the love, and the strength that allowed me to survive. Michael and I had faced something no one should ever face, and we had come out the other side together. Life slowly returned to normal, or at least as normal as it could be after everything I had seen. I laughed again. I cried again. I lived again. But I never forgot, and I never will. And now I share this story with you, not just to tell what happened, but to remind you there are places in the world and maybe in ourselves where darkness waits. Courage, love, and hope can guide us through, but we must never forget what lurks in the shadows. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. And remember, sometimes the shadows are closer than you think.